21 Pilots just released their lead single, The Contract, off their upcoming album Breach. With the song, we also got a music video that serves as the continuation point for Paladin Strait, the final music video from the Clancy era. This video deals with Clancy suspended in time making a make-or-break decision before he opens his eyes back up and faces Nico. In this video, I'll be recapping what happens in the music video, doing a lyric analysis of the song, and then connecting them both together to see what new information we've learned and what it tells us about where the story is heading with this new and final chapter of the lore. The music video starts where Paladin Strait ended. Clancy has just taken down 7 of the 8 remaining bishops when Nico flies into the room and grabs him by the throat. At the end of Paladin, Clancy closes his eyes before slowly opening them back up, but in this new video, we are actually transported inside of Clancy's mind before he opens his eyes back up. When he opens his eyes in his mind, they briefly flash red before fading to their normal brown color. When Clancy looks around, he's in a nebulous space filled with figures surrounding him, all with glowing red eyes. Torchbearer is also there, but it's more like a spooky Jim version of Torch rather than the actual Torchbearer. It seems that they're almost in the eye of the storm, both in the physical and the metaphorical sense. During the song, the visuals are phasing in and out as if to represent the hallucination that Clancy's singing about. This phasing in and out of reality continues throughout the whole song until the end, when the figures Clancy and Torch are being sucked into the storm and are phasing out of Clancy's dreamlike state. The song cuts out, but before we return to Dima, we hear Torchbearer's theme and see him walking out of the darkness, with Clancy's jacket, just like he did in the Clancy tour. We have a moment replaying the events of the tour where Torch holds out the jacket for Clancy to take, but we don't see him take it, just like in the last show of the tour. Just a side note before we continue, if you haven't been keeping up with the lore of the Clancy tour and are a little confused about this part, I would suggest watching my Clancy tour recap video where I go over everything that we learned during this tour lore-wise, and the significance of Torchbearer and the jacket. After this moment, we cut back to the real world, where we see Clancy open his eyes and face Nico with a determined look, and then we cut to black. So, maybe a continuation of Paladin Strait is a loose way to put it, considering we're left in the exact same place that we left off, but don't let that fool you into thinking that we haven't learned anything new with this video. While it's not the most lore-heavy, it still does reveal a lot to us and point us to some possibilities of what is going on in this world. We start with the pre-chorus, with Clancy checking his surroundings and wondering what he'll pull this time, the he most likely being the necromancer that he mentions in the next line. A necromancer is someone who communicates with or raises the dead, a lot like what the bishops are seen doing when they see someone. This is most likely talking about Nico, since he's the main bishop and the last one that Clancy has to face. We get the sense of paranoia and anxiety that comes with facing this figure, and he seems almost obsessive over checking where the necromancer is. In the chorus, Clancy mentions that he doesn't sleep much, which is another reference to the metaphor of sleep that has been very prevalent in the story. At the start of the Trench era, Tyler/Clancy greets us in the jumpsuit music video by saying, "We've been here the whole time. You were asleep, time to wake up." And sleep has also come up in many of the pilot's other songs, specifically a lack of sleep. Clancy then mentions promises and contracts that he used to keep, implying that he doesn't keep these anymore. Something has changed and he isn't following through anymore. We'll return to this line later. Parallel to this line at the end of the chorus is "my hallucination I used to see." Again, something that used to happen that doesn't anymore. Just based on context clues, this is most likely referring to the Torchbearer, since it was revealed that the version we've seen throughout Skilled and Icy and up until the Navigating music video was just a projection. During this point in the music video, we also see Torchbearer warp out of the frame, again alluding to how he isn't actually there. The first verse of the song showcases a very paranoid, overthinking mindset, where Clancy is pacing around, trying to breathe, and hiding his face. The rest of the song mainly repeats the same choruses and pre-choruses that we've already had, but there are 2 other small sections that are different. The first is the bridge, with Clancy singing, "I want to get out there, but I don't try." This line doesn't reveal too much, but it's just another look into Clancy's mental state. Finally, the last lines in the song are, "I used to see it felt so real, but now I plead just take the deal. I promised you a contract." In the video, Clancy is singing this towards Torchbearer, implying that whatever the contract is, it was made between Clancy and Torch. It also brings up the idea of Clancy feeling a bit of betrayal from Torchbearer in the line, "It felt so real." Clancy feels like he was being tricked by Torchbearer, who projected himself to guide Clancy, but wasn't actually there, and Clancy isn't quite sure how to feel about that betrayal of trust. Looking over the whole video along with the lyrics, what is the story that's being told here? As I mentioned toward the start of the video, what we see in the video isn't actually happening in real time. This is all in Clancy's head, flashing by as he's facing Nico. The real question is Clancy in control right now, or is Nico? Now, the obvious answer would be Clancy. This is his mind, right? But there's a chance that everything he's seeing is being influenced by Nico. The biggest hint towards this is the fact that when Clancy opens his eyes in his mind, they flash red, the sign that, at least during the Blurryface era of videos, meant that Tyler was being controlled by Blurryface. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't actually seen the red eyes during this era of lore yet, despite them being alluded to in letters. But if we assume that the red eyes symbolize the same thing, and if we equate Nico to Blurryface, then it would imply that Clancy is being controlled by Nico at this moment. This could be Nico trying to manipulate Clancy's thoughts to try and get him on his side one last time. This isn't confirmed, but it does mean that we should take everything that we see with a grain of salt. Most importantly, Torchbearer. There isn't too much going on story-wise in this video, but the inclusion of Torchbearer and having the scene with the jacket at the end is very important, and changes meaning when you look at it as a projection from Nico. If Nico is projecting Torchbearer into Clancy's mind, especially projecting him offering Clancy the jacket, this could be Nico trying to trick Clancy into accepting the deal from him. While the video is ambiguous whether Clancy actually took the jacket or not, since he didn't grab it but also didn't turn away from it, I would say the live concert tells us all that we need to know. We already saw this play out. We know that Clancy refuses the jacket. Whether or not Clancy views this as the real Torchbearer changes the outcome of this decision in very drastic ways. On the first path, if Clancy believes that Torchbearer is there in his mind, or at least if this isn't one of Nico's tricks, and this is Clancy just thinking about Torchbearer himself, that means that Clancy is refusing Torchbearer's help. Again, keep in mind that the album is called Breach, and that breach means to fail to observe a law or agreement, or maybe a contract? If we know that Clancy promised Torchbearer the contract, the name of the album would imply that he's breaching that contract. He's failing to follow through with it. This goes along with the line from earlier, promises and contracts I used to keep. Him ditching Torchbearer out of the blue may seem odd, but if we look at some of the letters that were present at the fan premiere experiences from the past tour, the story starts to come together. Clancy has grown a sort of hunger for power, not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that's starting to make him lose himself. The citizens and Torchbearer are noticing it, and Torch reminds Clancy not to become the thing that they're trying to destroy. However, Clancy's last letter to Torchbearer is very discouraging for where the story's heading. Clancy says that he feels powerful again, and that he alone can restore the city's hope. This is all written in a very ominous tone, specifically using the phrase absolute power, and highlighting the fact that Clancy will do it alone. Torchbearer and the Banditos may have brought Clancy to this point, but he's taken over. He's abandoning everything, even if he has good intentions for it. But this may not end well for him. As I examined more deeply in my previous video, a lot of the citizen letters we saw in the second half of the Clancy tour were very anxious about Clancy's growing power, as if they were starting to lose their trust in him. As if he was starting to become just like the bishops they're trying to fight against. If the story does go this route, it could be a metaphor for how your insecurities and mental health can corrupt you and feed into themselves until you can't escape from them. Now, obviously this is a very dark way to end the story, so I'm not sure that they'll go this route completely. Maybe Clancy does start to slip into this, but is rescued by Torchbearer and the Banditos again, standing in metaphorically for his loved ones, although I will argue that this story doesn't need a happy ending. I know a lot of people want one and would feel let down if it doesn't end well, but I'll remind you that this story has always stayed very close metaphorically with the real world, and that life itself doesn't always have happy endings, especially when talking about mental health and depression. Sometimes it isn't a cycle that you can break, or sometimes you can, but you still don't ever entirely escape it. It's always there in the back of your mind. I think we'll have to wait until the full album comes out to really dive into this if this is the route they choose, but let's switch over to the perspective of Clancy not believing that he's with the real Torchbearer, and the possibility that that's just a projection from Nico. If Clancy somehow is caught on that this is all just an illusion that Nico's creating in his mind, and he's being taken over, maybe similar to what happens when he's being smeared, then him symbolically not taking the jacket could represent that he isn't succumbing to Nico. He's choosing to fight back, to stick to the contract that he promised the real Torchbearer. What we might see in the future is a continuation where Clancy opens his eyes and uses the power of the antlers to take down Nico once and for all. This would obviously be a much more hopeful ending, where Clancy gets the chance to defeat his demons, and symbolically through that, Tyler gets to defeat his. It would also mean that the cycle, which we know has been going on for longer than just the Tyler version of Clancy has been around, it's finally broken, which would tie things up very nicely. So obviously whether this video is in Clancy or Nico's control and what happens after he opens his eyes back up are the biggest questions on everyone's minds. But this video also has another fun detail to analyze. I've seen a lot of people confused about who the figures with the glowing red eyes are that stand behind Clancy and Torchbearer this whole video. Now, they might not be relevant and could honestly just be there for vibes, but a lot of fans are thinking that these figures could symbolically stand in for people in the lore. One of the biggest theories I see going around is that these are all representations of past Clancys, and that this is a sort of Avatar: The Last Airbender moment where Clancy escapes to his mind, sees all of his past ancestors, and has to decide whether or not to take the same route as them, or to try things his own way. A lot of people think that this is the case because they have the glowing red eyes, and we know that only Clancy gets red eyes when he's seized. everyone else gets yellow eyes. While I do like the theory overall, I do want to push back on the reasoning a bit. I definitely believe in the theory that Tyler's version of Clancy isn't the first Clancy, and that it's more so of a title that's passed on from person to person. But I don't think that anyone with the title Clancy gets the red eyes when seized. I think that is a Tyler exclusive thing. It's why he's different. There may have been other Clancys before, but Tyler is the first one with this special power, and it's why he can wield the antlers, something that supposedly other Clancys couldn't, or at least not for a long time, since in the I Am Clancy video, he says that the gift is thought to be extinct. Plus, if Clancy is a title that's passed down, how would that change what color your eyes go when you're seized? Even if the color switch is just symbolic to show us, the viewer, what's going on, it still doesn't really make sense to me that just getting the title Clancy changes your eye color. But I don't know, maybe that's a theory for another day. The overall point is that these figures could be representations of past Clancys, showing where they failed and how Tyler Clancy must rise above their failures. The other theory for who these figures are is that they're representing us from the concert. Way back before the Clancy tour started, Tyler tweeted that the show was meant to be a flashback to remind us why we fight just before we do. Now, this actually sounds a lot like what's happening in the music video. Clancy is replaying memories in his mind before he has to fight Nico. He's seeing Torchbearer, he's seeing us, which could be a stand-in for the Banditos and the citizens that he's trying to save. It would also make sense as to why Torchbearer giving Clancy the jacket happens in both the concert and the video. It ties them both together. So those are all of the big lore-important updates from this video. It seems like we'll have to wait a little longer to truly see the outcome of the Paladin Strait Rebellion and to see what and who Clancy is becoming. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I have a lot more Pilots-themed videos coming up soon, and your support would really help me out. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.